I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible. But there's something about wanting to feel desired that nobody who's been with the same person since they were 21 can understand. Everyone's calling me selfish and delusional in the comments, but the truth is so much more complicated than what I posted on Reddit last week. And now I'm sitting outside an apartment I can't get into while my fiancé has blocked me on everything. The worst part about what happened isn't that I asked for an open relationship before our wedding. It's that I actually believed I was doing the right thing, being honest and communicating my needs like all those therapy Instagram accounts tell you to do. They don't warn you that honesty can make someone look at you like you're a stranger. They don't tell you that the person who knows you better than anyone can decide, in a single conversation, that they don't know you at all. If I don't tell this story properly, you'll never understand why I thought what I was asking for was reasonable. But once you know what I know about my relationship with Marcus, about the proposal that everyone called perfect, about the wedding planning that made me feel like I was disappearing, you'll see why I had to say something. You might not agree with what I said, but you'll understand why I couldn't just keep quiet and become someone's wife while this feeling ate me alive. Everyone thinks they know what happened because of my original post, the one that went viral on 3 different subreddit screenshot accounts on Twitter. But the real story will change how you see everything, including the parts I left out because I knew how they'd make me sound. I'm going to tell you everything, including what I said to Marcus that night 3 weeks ago, the exact words that made him go completely silent before he carefully set down his wine glass and asked me to repeat myself. And the part that makes me look worst? I'm saving that for the end because you need to understand what our relationship was really like first, before you judge me for wanting something more. Marcus proposed to me on a Tuesday. That detail matters because it shows how well he knew me, how he understood that I'd hate a public weekend proposal at a restaurant or some Instagram-worthy beach setup. We'd been together for 6 years, living together for 4, and everyone had been asking when he was going to propose for at least 2 of those years. My mom asked every time we talked. His mom asked more subtly, mentioning friends' weddings and how beautiful I'd look in white. He did it in our kitchen while I was making coffee before work. Got down on one knee right there on the tile we picked out together when we renovated last year, held up his grandmother's ring that I'd admired a dozen times in photos, and asked me to marry him with this look on his face like he already knew I'd say yes but was still nervous anyway. I said yes immediately. Of course I did. I loved Marcus. I still love Marcus. That's what makes this whole thing so confusing. He was everything I thought I wanted: stable, kind, successful in a quiet way that didn't need constant validation, handsome in that way where he photographs badly but looks incredible in person. He did dishes without being asked. He remembered my friends' names and actually listened when I talked about my day. When I had food poisoning last winter, he took 2 days off work to take care of me and never once made me feel gross about it. The ring fit perfectly. He'd somehow figured out my size without me noticing. We called our parents, posted a photo that got 847 likes, and spent that evening looking at venues on his laptop, while drinking the expensive champagne his coworker had given him for his birthday that we'd been saving for a special occasion. I didn't feel trapped until about 2 weeks into wedding planning. It started small. His mom sent me a Pinterest board with 250 pins of classic elegant weddings that all looked exactly the same: white flowers, neutral color schemes, strapless dresses that would look beautiful on someone with a different body type than mine. When I sent back some images I liked, jewel tones and vintage elements and a dress with sleeves, she wrote back, "Oh, how unique," with an exclamation point that somehow felt like a period. Then there were the venue tour where Marcus kept saying, "Whatever you want, babe," but his face would do this thing whenever I showed excitement about anything that wasn't a traditional ballroom. We looked at this incredible converted warehouse space with exposed brick and industrial lighting, and I could see him trying to picture it, trying to make himself like it, but also clearly thinking about what his extended family would say. "I just want you to be happy," he said in the car afterward, which should have been sweet but felt like a weighted blanket slowly suffocating me. My best friend Jasmine was my only bridesmaid because I don't have a lot of close female friends, something Marcus's sister brought up multiple times like it was a red flag about my character. Jasmine took me dress shopping and watched me try on 15 different gowns, all of which made me look like someone else. Someone older and more settled and ready for this. "You okay?" Jasmine asked after I'd changed back into my jeans for the 3rd boutique in a row without finding anything. "I think I just haven't found the right one yet," I said. She gave me this look like she wanted to ask something else, but then the consultant came back with champagne and we moved on. The feeling got worse at night. I'd lie next to Marcus while he slept, his arm around me like always, and I'd stare at the ceiling thinking about how this was it. This was my life now. At 27, I'd figured out my forever. And there would be no more first kisses with strangers, or wondering what if or any of those experiences that everyone else got to have in their 20s, because I'd met Marcus at a mutual friend's birthday party when I was 21, and we just fit together so easily that it seemed stupid to let him go. I'd only slept with 2 people before Marcus. One terrible experience at 19, with a guy from my dorm who finished in about 90 seconds and never texted me again, and one summer fling at 20 with a bartender who was objectively bad for me, but made me feel alive in a way I'd never felt before or since. Then Marcus, who was good in bed in a consistent, attentive way that should have been enough but lately left me feeling hollow. I started noticing other men. Not in a fleeting way like before, but with this aching awareness of possibility closing. The guy who worked at the coffee shop near my office who always drew little hearts in my latte foam and had tattoos covering both arms. A coworker's friend at a happy hour who talked to me about photography for 45 minutes and looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the room. Even just men on the train, wondering what their stories were, what they'd be like, who I might have become if I'd met them instead. I felt guilty every time, like I was already cheating just by imagining. I go home and try to be extra affectionate with Marcus, initiating sex more often, trying to recapture whatever I thought was missing. He noticed and seemed happy about it, which made me feel worse. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, my college roommate got engaged. Emma, who I'd lived with junior and senior year, who'd been perpetually single and claimed she'd never get married, posted a photo with a ring and a caption about when you know, and I felt something inside me crack. Because Emma had dated dozens of people. She'd had experiences. She traveled alone and made out with strangers in Barcelona and knew exactly what she was choosing when she chose her fiancé. I'd been with 3 people total, and one of them barely counted. That's when I started going down the Reddit rabbit hole. I'd read relationship advice forums during lunch breaks, scrolling through posts about open relationships and ethical non-monogamy, and couples who'd successfully navigated one partner wanting to explore before settling down. There were so many stories that sounded like mine, people who'd got together young and were happy but felt like they'd missed something crucial. Some of the stories ended badly. Partners who said they were okay with it but weren't, relationships that imploded, jealousy that destroyed otherwise good things. But some of them worked. Some people came back together stronger, more certain, without that nagging what if that poisoned everything. I convinced myself we could be one of the success stories. I started drafting speeches in my head. Practicing in the car on my commute how I'd explain it to Marcus, how I'd make him understand that this wasn't about him not being enough. It was about me needing to know myself better before I became someone's wife. I imagined he'd be hurt at first, but then he'd understand because he loved me and wanted me to be happy, and we had such good communication usually that we could work through anything. Everyone online thought I was fine. I posted photos of wedding planning, the invitation mock-ups, a flat lay of paint swatches for our signature cocktail napkins. I got dozens of comments calling me lucky and saying Marcus was a catch and asking when the big day was. Privately, I was having minor panic attacks in bathroom stalls at work, Googling things like cold feet versus real doubts, and is it normal to want to sleep with other people before marriage? The answer was yes, it's normal to think about it. But most people just ignore those thoughts and get married anyway and probably wonder for the rest of their lives. And I couldn't decide if that was mature acceptance of reality or just giving up on something vital. I thought I was being honest and evolved by wanting to talk about it instead of just wondering forever. I thought that's what you were supposed to do in a healthy relationship. I picked a Friday night because I didn't want either of us to have to go to work the next day in case the conversation ran long. I cooked Marcus's favorite dinner, opened a good bottle of wine, waited until we were relaxed and comfortable on the couch together. He'd had a good week at work. He was happy playing with my hair while we watched some documentary he'd chosen. I'd rehearsed this so many times that the words came out smooth, like I was reciting lines. I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind, I started. And I need you to really listen before you react, okay? He muted the TV and turned to face me fully, concern already creasing his forehead. Of course, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong exactly, I said. I've just been thinking a lot about us, about the wedding, about our future together. Okay. He was trying to read my face and I watched him mentally cycling through possibilities. Pregnant, wanting to postpone. Having doubts, I love you, I said. I need you to know that first. I love you and I want to marry you and spend my life with you. I love you too, he said carefully. You're scaring me a little. We got together when I was 21, I continued, following my script. And you're the best thing that ever happened to me, but I've been feeling like there's this whole part of life I never got to experience. Like I went straight from being a kid to being in a serious relationship, and I skipped over something important. I watched his face trying to process this, still not understanding where I was going. What do you mean? He asked. This was it. The moment I'd rehearsed 100 times. I think I need to explore a little before we get married, I said. Not break up or anything like that. But maybe open up our relationship temporarily, just so I can have some experiences and know for sure that you're what I want. That I'm not just with you because you're all I know. The silence that followed felt about 10 years long. Marcus just stared at me. He didn't look angry or hurt yet, just confused, like I'd suddenly started speaking a language he'd never heard before. Explore, he repeated finally. You mean sleep with other people? I mean have experiences I never got to have, I said. I've only been with 3 people, Marcus. You've been with 11. That number had come up once in a late-night conversation years ago, and I'd filed it away without thinking much about it then. Now it felt desperately relevant. That was before you, he said. Those people don't mean anything. You're the person I chose. But you got to choose from experience, I said, hearing my voice get higher, more defensive. You knew what else was out there. I don't, and I think that's going to bother me forever if I don't address it now. He was shaking his head slowly. So you want to have sex with other people before our wedding and then what? Come back to me and settle down like that never happened? It's not settling, I said. That's the whole point. I know for sure that you're what I want, not just what I fell into at 21 because I didn't know any better. You fell into me, he said quietly. That's how you're describing our relationship. You know what I mean. I really don't. He stood up, ran his hands through his hair, paced to the window and back. Let me make sure I understand. You want me to wait around while you fuck other guys, and then if none of them are better than me, you'll graciously agree to still marry me? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? I tried to remember my carefully prepared explanations, all the relationship forum wisdom about ethical non-monogamy and personal growth, and how experiences outside a relationship can actually strengthen it. But under his stare, it all dissolved into something that sounded exactly like what he'd said. I'm saying I have needs, I tried. And I'm being honest with you about them instead of cheating or wondering forever or resenting you later. Needs, he repeated. You need to sleep with strangers. That's a need you have. Don't make it sound dirty. How should I make it sound? His voice was still quiet but getting louder. My fiancée just told me 3 months before our wedding that she needs to fuck other people first. How am I supposed to make that sound? Other couples do this, I said. It's not that crazy. There are whole communities of people who, I don't care what other couples do, he interrupted. I care about us. And I thought we were on the same page about what we wanted, but apparently you want something completely different. I want you, I insisted. I just also want to have some experiences first. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. You want me to be your safety net, your backup plan after you get the fun stuff out of your system. It's not like that. What's it like then? Explain it to me in a way that doesn't make me sound like an idiot for not seeing this coming. I thought I was fixing things, but really I was detonating our entire relationship in the most spectacular way possible. I could see it in real time, watching Marcus look at me like he'd never seen me before, like 6 years had evaporated, and I was just some stranger asking him for something incomprehensible. I thought you'd understand, I said weakly. I thought we could talk about this like adults. We are talking about it, he said. What I understand is that you don't actually want to marry me. Or you do, but only after you've tried out some other options to make sure you're not missing something better. That's not fair. What's not fair is planning a wedding with someone who apparently has 1 foot out the door. I don't have 1 foot out the door. I'm trying to be honest with you. You're being honest that you want to cheat on me with my permission. It's not cheating if we both agree to it. He stared at me for a long moment. I don't agree to it. Something about the flatness of his tone made my stomach drop. This wasn't going how I'd imagined at all. In my head, he'd been resistant at first, but then we talked it through and he'd eventually seen my perspective, maybe even admitted he understood where I was coming from. You won't even consider it, I asked. Consider what? My fiancé sleeping with other men? No, I won't consider it. That's not the kind of relationship I want. But it would just be temporary. Just until you what? Get it out of your system. Fuck enough strangers that you finally decide I'm good enough. You're putting words in my mouth. I'm literally repeating what you said. We were both standing now on opposite sides of the living room, and it felt like the distance between us was growing every second. I tried to think of how to fix this, how to make him see what I'd seen in all those Reddit posts and think pieces about non-traditional relationships. I read about couples who do this successfully, I said, who open up their relationship for a while and it makes them stronger. They come back together with more appreciation for what they have. You've been reading about this, he said slowly. You've been researching how to sleep with other people and still keep me around. For how long? I hesitated. A few weeks. You've been planning this for weeks and I had no idea. I wasn't planning it, I was just thinking about it. Trying to figure out how to talk to you about how I was feeling. How you were feeling, okay. He walked to the kitchen and I heard him pour water from the tap, heard him drink it. When he came back, his face was different, calmer, closed off. Let me ask you something. Have you already met someone? What? No. Is there someone specific you want to sleep with? Someone you've been thinking about? I thought about the coffee shop guy, the coworker's friend, all the faces that had cycled through my imagination. No, I said, this isn't about anyone specific. But you've thought about it, you've pictured yourself with other people. That's normal, everyone does that. I don't, he said, you never think about other women. I notice attractive people, sure, but I don't actively imagine a scenario where I get to fuck them while keeping you as my safety net. Stop saying it like that. How should I say it? We were going in circles and I could feel the conversation slipping away from me, turning into something uglier than I'd intended. I tried to reset to get back to the script. I think we should take some time to think about this, I said. Sleep on it and talk more tomorrow when we're calmer. I don't need to sleep on it, Marcus said. I know my answer, no, absolutely not. If you need to sleep with other people, you'll have to do it as a single person. My heart was pounding. You're giving me an ultimatum? You gave me one first, you said you need this. Well, I need fidelity. I need a partner who actually wants to be with me, not someone who sees me as the consolation prize after she's done exploring. I never said you were a consolation prize. You didn't have to. He picked up his wine glass from earlier, the one he'd set down so carefully when this conversation started, and took it to the kitchen. I heard him pour it down the sink. When he came back, he walked past me toward our bedroom. Where are you going? I asked. To bed. I'm done with this conversation. Marcus, we need to talk about this more. We really don't. You were very clear about what you want, and I was very clear about my answer. There's nothing else to discuss. I followed him to the bedroom doorway. He was taking off his shirt, his back to me, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. So that's it, I said. Just going to shut down instead of actually talking about this. He turned around. What do you want me to say? That I'm okay with it? I'm not, that I understand, I don't. You just told me I'm not enough for you, and now you're mad that I'm not handling it better. I didn't say you weren't enough. Yes, you did, maybe not in those words, but that's what you meant. If I was enough, you wouldn't need to sleep with other people to be sure about marrying me. He had me there, and we both knew it. I stood in the doorway trying to think of a counter-argument and coming up empty. I'm going to sleep, Marcus said. You can join me or not, I don't care, but I'm not talking about this anymore tonight. I didn't join him. I slept on the couch and barely slept at all, running through the conversation over and over, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong. In the morning, Marcus left for the gym before I woke up, and when he came back, he was coldly polite in a way that was worse than anger. I'm going to my brother's for the day, he said. I need some space to think. Okay, I said, we can talk when you get back. Maybe. He didn't get back until almost midnight. I pretended to be asleep and he got into bed on his side, staying as far from me as possible. The next few days were horrible. We moved around each other like roommates, polite and distant. He didn't bring up the conversation and neither did I, both of us stuck in this awful limbo. I kept waiting for him to come around to bring it up again, to maybe say he'd thought about it, and while he wasn't thrilled, he understood where I was coming from. He didn't. What he did exactly 1 week after our conversation was sit me down at the kitchen table with his laptop. I've been looking at our lease, he said. I'm the only one on it. You moved in after I'd already been here a year. My stomach dropped. Okay, I think you should stay somewhere else for a while. Give us both space to figure out what we want. You're kicking me out? I'm asking you to stay somewhere else while we take a break. A break. The word felt like ice. You want to break up? I want space, he said. I can't be around you right now. I can't sleep next to you and plan a wedding with you and pretend everything's normal when you've made it very clear that you have serious doubts about us. I don't have doubts about us. I have doubts about myself. That's a distinction without a difference, he said. Pack a bag, stay with Jasmine or your parents. I don't care where, but I need you not to be here. For how long? I don't know. I did pack a bag, crying the whole time while Marcus sat in the living room not looking at me. I went to Jasmine's and she asked what happened and I told her a version where I was the reasonable one who tried to have an honest conversation and Marcus had overreacted. Damn, she said. That's rough. But maybe he'll come around once he's had time to process. He didn't come around. He texted me once to ask about a bill that was in my name, and when I tried to turn that into a conversation about us, he shut it down immediately. Not ready to talk yet, was all he wrote. I spent a week at Jasmine's place spiraling. I'd wake up to texts from Marcus's mom asking if I'd made a decision on centerpieces, clearly not knowing anything was wrong. I'd check his Instagram to see if he'd posted anything and find nothing. I'd go through our photos together and wonder how we'd got from there to here. Everyone online thought I was fine because I hadn't posted anything about the fight. I just stopped posting entirely, and a few people asked if I was okay, but I said I was just busy with wedding planning. On day 8, I decided I needed to fix this. I texted Marcus and asked if I could come by to get some more of my things and also talk. He said I could come by Saturday at 2 p.m. He'd make sure to be there. I showed up at 1:45 p.m. because I was anxious and desperate to see him. I tried my key in the lock. It didn't work. I tried again, thinking maybe I was doing it wrong, but no, the lock had been changed. I knocked. No answer. I texted him, I'm here, my key doesn't work. No response. I called, straight to voicemail. I waited outside our apartment, his apartment, for 45 minutes before I accepted that he wasn't coming. He told me to come over and then changed the locks and disappeared. I texted him, "What the fuck, Marcus? You said you'd be here." Nothing. I called again. Voicemail. I tried messaging him on Instagram. The message wouldn't send. Blocked. Facebook. Blocked. Email. I sent one anyway. I don't understand what's happening. Please talk to me. I love you. I'm sorry I upset you, but we need to talk about this like adults. No response. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard from him since. I've driven by the apartment 6 times and his car is sometimes there and sometimes not, but he never answers the door. I've tried leaving notes. I've tried having Jasmine reach out to his brother. Nothing. The wedding is in 7 weeks. The invitations went out a month ago. I've gotten 3 texts from relatives asking for our registry information. His mom called me yesterday to ask about the rehearsal dinner, and I pretended I was in a meeting and couldn't talk. I still have most of my things in that apartment. My clothes, my books, my grandmother's jewelry box that I've had since I was 12. I have no idea if he's planning to give them back or if he's thrown them away or what. I finally broke down and posted on Reddit's relationship advice forum 4 days ago. I kept it vague, didn't mention the wedding or how long we'd been together, just said I'd asked my partner about opening our relationship and he'd reacted badly. The post got 1,200 comments in 6 hours before the mods locked it. About 95 of the comments called me terrible. Selfish, immature, delusional, a narcissist, commitment-phobic, cruel. Someone said I'd wanted to have my cake and eat it too. Someone else said Marcus dodged a bullet. Hundreds of people told me I'd destroyed a good relationship over grass is greener syndrome and that I deserved to be alone. A few people were sympathetic, said it was normal to have these feelings, that I should have kept them to myself, but they understood where I was coming from. One person said you didn't actually want to sleep with other people. You wanted him to fight for you. You wanted him to be so devastated by the idea that he'd prove how much you mean to him. And now you're finding out that some people's response to being told they're not enough is to just walk away. That comment bothered me more than all the nasty ones because I think it might be true. Not entirely. I did genuinely feel like I'd missed out on something. I do still think it's unfair that Marcus got to have all those experiences before me and I'm supposed to just be okay with him being my only real adult relationship. But maybe part of me also wanted him to panic at the thought of losing me, to fight harder, to show me that I was irreplaceable. Instead, he just replaced the locks. I've been thinking a lot about what I actually wanted from that conversation. In my head, the best case scenario was that Marcus would be hurt at first, then thoughtful, then ultimately say something like, "I love you enough to want you to be sure, so okay, let's figure out what this looks like." And then maybe I'd have gone on a few dates, or maybe I wouldn't have even done that. Maybe just having his permission would have been enough to make the feeling go away. And then I'd have come back to him grateful and cert, and we'd have got married and I'd never wonder what if. But I didn't account for the scenario where he'd just be done with me. Where asking for this would be such a fundamental betrayal that there'd be no coming back from it. The thing is, I never actually wanted to lose him. I wanted to keep him and also have freedom, which I'm realizing is probably not how relationships work, at least not ours. I thought being honest was the right thing to do, better than cheating or silently resenting him, but now I think maybe some things you're just supposed to keep to yourself. Some doubts you're supposed to work through internally instead of making them someone else's problem. I keep going back to that moment when he set down his wine glass and asked me to repeat myself. The look on his face like I'd slapped him. I've been so focused on explaining my needs, on making sure I communicated clearly, that I didn't pay attention to what I was actually communicating, that 6 years together wasn't enough to make me sure about him. That the wedding we were planning felt like a trap. That I was 27 and panicking about the life I'd chosen. All of which was true, but maybe truth isn't always the answer. Jasmine says I should get a lawyer to help me get my stuff back, that he can't just keep my things hostage. But part of me thinks if I do that, it really is over. Like right now we're in some kind of horrible limbo, but there's still a possibility he'll cool off and talk to me, and getting lawyers involved would eliminate that possibility completely. My mom called yesterday. She texted Marcus about something wedding related and he hadn't responded, and she wanted to know if everything was okay. "We're in a weird place right now," I told her. "What kind of weird place?" "Honey, the wedding is in 7 weeks. "I know. Is this cold feet? Because that's normal, everyone gets nervous before a wedding." "It's not cold feet." "Then what is it?" I couldn't tell her. I couldn't explain that I'd asked her future son-in-law if I could sleep with other men before marrying him, and he'd responded by ghosting me so completely that I couldn't even get into my own apartment. "We just need to work through some stuff," I said. "Work through it fast," she said. "Do you know how much we've spent on deposits?" That's what I'm dealing with now. Not just losing Marcus, but having to explain to 150 people why the wedding is canceled if it's canceled. I still don't know. Having to face his family and my family and everyone who thought we were perfect together and explain what happened. Although what would I even say? I doubt I asked for an open relationship and he left me is going to get much sympathy. I've drafted about 30 different texts to Marcus over the past 2 weeks. Long ones explaining my perspective in more detail. Short ones just apologizing. Angry ones demanding my stuff back and accusing him of being manipulative. I haven't sent any of them because what's the point? He's made it clear he doesn't want to hear from me. Last night, I drove to the apartment again at 11 p.m. His car was there. I sat in my car across the street for 2 hours, watching the lights in what used to be our bedroom, trying to see movement through the curtains. At one point, I thought about going to the door and just sitting there until he had to acknowledge me. But then I pictured him calling the police on me and I drove back to Jasmine's. This morning, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 4 words, stop coming by here. So he's watching. He knows I've been driving by. He's aware of everything I'm doing, but he still won't talk to me. I replied, I just want my things and to talk. 3 dots appeared like he was typing. They went on for a full minute. Then they disappeared. No message came through. I'm supposed to have a final dress fitting in 2 weeks. I'm supposed to be addressing in her envelope invitations. I'm supposed to be confirming the final head count with the caterer. Instead, I'm staying in my best friend's guest room, crying over a relationship I apparently destroyed by being too honest, and I can't even figure out if I'm sorry I said it or just sorry it went so badly. Here's the part that makes me look worst. The thing I left out of my Reddit post and haven't told anyone including Jasmine, I had already made a Tinder profile. I made it 3 days before I talked to Marcus. I didn't upload photos of my face, just used a picture of me from behind at the beach, and I didn't match with anyone or message anyone. I just wanted to see what was out there. Wanted to feel that little thrill of possibility, of people being interested in me, of having options. I told myself it wasn't really cheating because I wasn't actually talking to anyone, just looking. Research, basically. Trying to understand what I'd be giving up by getting married without ever experiencing dating apps or casual hookups or any of that. But I had the profile open on my phone when I had that conversation with Marcus. It was literally running in the background while I was telling him I just wanted to be honest about my feelings. I deleted it the morning after our fight, suddenly terrified he'd somehow find out about it. But the fact that I made it at all, that I was already 1 foot out the door before I even talked to him about it, that changes things, doesn't it? It means maybe he was right. Maybe I did already have someone in mind, or if not someone specific, then at least the idea of someone. The fantasy of what else could be out there. There were 127 guys who'd liked my profile in those 3 days. 127 strangers who saw 1 photo of me from behind and thought I was worth swiping on. And I'd look through their profiles late at night while Marcus slept next to me, imagining what it would be like to message them, to meet them for drinks, to kiss someone new. So when I told Marcus this wasn't about anyone specific, I was technically telling the truth but also absolutely lying. It wasn't about any one person, but it was about all of them. It was about the 127 possibilities I'd already started considering before I even asked him if we could open our relationship. I think I wanted permission to do something I'd already decided to do. I wanted him to make it okay, to absolve me, to be the cool, understanding partner who loved me enough to let me explore. Instead, he called my bluff in the most definitive way possible. And now I'm stuck. I don't have Marcus, I don't have our apartment, I don't have the wedding I'd been planning. But I also don't have the freedom I thought I wanted because it turns out I don't actually want to sleep with strangers. I just wanted to not feel trapped. I wanted to know I was choosing my life instead of falling into it. I re-downloaded Tinder last week. I've matched with 8 guys. I've had conversations with 3 of them. One asked me to drinks and I said yes, and then canceled an hour before because the thought of actually going through with it made me want to throw up. What I wanted was the idea of possibility. What I'm learning is that possibility without Marcus just feels empty. The wedding venue sent an email yesterday with a reminder that our final payment is due in 3 weeks, non-refundable after that date. I'm supposed to forward it to Marcus for his half, but he's blocked me everywhere, so I don't even know how to contact him except through strange numbers, and that feels psychotic. His brother finally responded to Jasmine yesterday. She texted him asking if Marcus was okay and if there was any way to help us communicate. He wrote back, Marcus asked me not to get involved. He's dealing with a lot right now and needs space. I'm sorry. So that's it. That's where I am, locked out of my apartment. Ghosted by my fiancé, facing a canceled wedding that I'm going to have to explain to everyone I know. All because I was honest about wanting something that I'm now realizing I didn't actually want, or at least not badly enough to lose everything over. People keep asking me if I've learned my lesson, if I regret what I said. The honest answer is I don't know. I regret how I said it maybe. I regret not thinking through how it would land, not considering that some requests are relationship ending just by being asked. I regret the Tinder profile and the weeks of secret research, and the fact that I let this feeling build until it felt urgent instead of just dealing with it quietly. But do I regret wanting more experiences before getting married? I still don't know, because the feeling was real. The trap sensation was real. The fear that I was making a permanent decision without enough information was real. What I'm learning is that sometimes the feeling being real doesn't matter. Sometimes you're supposed to sit with discomfort instead of trying to fix it. Sometimes honesty destroys things that would have been fine if you just kept your mouth shut. Marcus proposed on a Tuesday because he knew me well enough to know I'd hate a public proposal. He knew me better than anyone has ever known me. And I threw that away because 127 strangers on Tinder liked a picture of me from behind, because I'd only slept with 3 people, because I was 27 and panicking about forever. I'm writing this from Jasmine's guest room at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep. Because I keep thinking about the look on Marcus's face when I asked him to repeat myself. Because his stuff is still on my Netflix account, and I can see that he's been watching documentaries without me. Because the wedding is in 6 weeks and 5 days, and I still don't know if it's canceled or if he's planning to show up, or if there's any universe where we fix this. Because I need someone to tell me if I'm the villain in this story or if I just made a mistake. If asking for what you need is always right even when it destroys everything, or if some needs are supposed to stay buried. I posted this because everyone's been asking for an update after my Reddit post went viral, and because Marcus won't talk to me, so this is the only way I can process what happened. And maybe because some small part of me hopes he'll see this and understand that I never wanted to lose him, I just wanted to be sure. But I'm starting to think that wanting to be sure when you're with someone good is the same as not being sure at all. And by the time you realize that, it's too late. The locks are already changed,